Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve lisani yefqahu kavli. Selamun aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuh. Inshallah, we will continue with the 24th word and third branch.
Since the hadiths that speak of the signs of the end of time, the events at the end of time, and the merits and rewards of certain actions have not been well understood, some scholars who rely on their reason have pronounced some of them to be either weak or false, while some of the scholars whose belief was weak but whose egotism was strong have gone as far as denying them. For now we shall not attempt any detailed discussion, but shall only explain 12 principles. The first principle. This is a matter which we have explained in the question and answer at the end of the 20th word. Its summary is this. Religion is an examination, a test, which distinguishes elevated spirits from base ones. It therefore speaks of matters that everyone shall see with their eyes in the future in such a way that they remain neither altogether unknown nor self-evident, so that everyone is compelled to confirm them. They open the door to the reason, but do not take the will from the hand. Because if a sign of the last day appeared completely self-evidently, and everyone was compelled to affirm it, then a disposition like coal would remain equal to one like diamonds. The mystery of man's accountability and the results of examination would go for nothing. It is because of this that there have been much dispute over many matters, like that of Mahdi and Sufyan. Also, the narrations differ greatly. They have become pronouncements which contradict one another. The second principle. There are various levels in the matters of Islam. If one requires certain proof, for another the prevailing opinion is sufficient. Others require merely assent and acceptance, and not to be rejected. In which case, secondary matters or particular events in time, which are not among the basis of belief, do not require certain compliance and definite proof, just not to be rejected and to be submitted to, and not to be inferred with.
Yes, we can stop here. The rest will be. Would you also like to lead the discussion? Since you are there,
We can lead it together.
Sure.
Right.
I can do it. Right.
Having learned much from Abdul Rahman, I'd like to, as moderator, I'd like to ask you what you understand from this reading.
This is actually like a topic is an expertise of Brother Yusuf. If he is around, we can ask him.
Sure. So Brother Yusuf, you have been summoned to the microphone. If you're available to speak, would you like to share something that you'd like to highlight or that stood out to you, or share your expertise? What is that? Okay, so it seems that he might not be available at this particular time. So when you're available, please do raise your hand, and inshallah, we can.
So let me then.
Thank you.
Yeah. So far, that's interesting actually. Like when we look at the 24th word, it starts with all the differences, diversity that we observe in the universe, in our life, among other people, in other people. And then, so in the first branch, we studied why we see such differences and how they make sense, how they related to our Creator, the names of our Creator. How different manifestations of the different names observed by us as different types of creation, different understandings, different colors in creation. And in the second branch, we said there are all these differences as well in prophets and their teachings, or between, like among saints. So what is the point of this? And then author was saying that there's actually a wisdom, a great wisdom in that, and there's a meaning, and there's a important reason for that. So we studied different ways of making connections with the reality, different paths to perfection, and so on. But all these differences, all these disagreements sometimes, agreements some other times, I guess bring forward some questions like, okay, we hear all these narrations or all these teachings of the prophet, but how much we should take them seriously, how serious we should take them. Like what happens if we lose someone who is the highmost epitome,
Example.
Which is the best example of all names, or best interpreter of all names, best observer, or also best manifester, whatever it means, reflector of all names. So what is the point of, like, do we miss anything? Since there are all these differences in reaching the perfection, do we really need such a person? And I guess such a question also comes with other questions like, okay, let's assume we want to follow such a person because in previous branches, author said that if you follow this person, this specific prophet and his teachings, then you will reach the perfection in the best way. So, and how are we going to follow? Right, that's the question. And he says, okay, one way to follow him is following his narrations, like hadith, right? Learning about them and so on. But he says there are certain hadith, and there are certain interpretation of certain, like some hadith, that are very controversial. So if this is the case, what are we going to do? Like if everything is such controversial, like what are we going to do? How are we going to find our way? And I guess here, he says if you want to find your way among all these hadiths, even the controversial ones, then you should follow some principles. That you should have some principles about hadith. Have to read them, have to understand them, and so on. And this is what I understand so far. We read two principles. One is talking about the wisdom of being ambiguous, I guess, from time to time. And the other one is related like different aspects of Iman, different aspects of religion. And so on. Yes, this is in a nutshell what I understand.
No, thank you. That really set the environment to have this conversation. Brother Yusuf, please go ahead.
And from last week's discussion, actually from second branch altogether, there was one important message that I took for myself, which I guess we mentioned last week, but I just want to repeat it for myself again. A major difference between the two type of droplet and atom. So the path of philosophers and the path of messengerhood was that at the path of messengerhood, the human was releasing all his false claims. He was realizing his nothingness. But in the way of philosophy, this was not the case. So what that practically meant for me is, when trying to reach truth, do I feel like I can reach it with my own tools, which would make me a droplet, like the philosopher? Or do I realize that I am not able to figure out the purpose and the meaning of this existence by myself, and I am in need of my maker to guide me how to make sense of this existence through the message and the messenger? If I say that, then I get into the path of atom in the metaphor in the second branch. So if I came to this point, if I realize that no matter how hard I try to make sense of this existence, I'm not able to figure out what it means. Partially, it looks like I am scratching the surface. It's not like I cannot make sense of it at all. To some extent, I'm able to make sense of it, but it's not really helping when I try to do it by myself. So after admitting this, if I then say that, yes, I am definitely in need of my maker, my creator, to send me guidance, also in within a human example, then I will start reading the third branch. There, I will say, okay, so there is this perfect human example then. Because generally how it is happening is, so the reason that I wanted to highlight this is because this was a very important understanding for myself personally. Because, for example, we are now reading Nursi. Am I reading Nursi as a smart genius guy, or am I reading Nursi as a student of revelation, a student of the messenger, who within himself realized his inability, sit in front of the messenger, got his lesson from the messenger, and with the same mindset teaching me the same lesson? If I take it as such, then he will become a teacher of prophetic legacy to me, and I will become a student of prophetic legacy. But if I take him as a smart man, then I will make him into a philosopher, and I will become like a student of philosophy from him. And when I'm talking about philosophy here, I define philosophy in terms of trying to make sense of existence without listening to revelation, and or saying that to some extent I can manage to make sense of this existence and I don't need guidance. So this mindset, and this is, personally speaking, this is not too far away from me, or rather it is very much me. So this is why I think this was important for me, this understanding. I mean, this would be my summary for the second branch. And then if I put third branch now on top of this, if I give up my egotism in the sense that I am going to understand it, or rather say that, okay, no, I am in need of messenger to teach me, then comes another obstacle in front of me. But there are some narrations coming from the messenger which are too hard to make sense of. So how am I going to take him as my teacher? So then this third branch fits into a nice picture. But there's also the flip side. Generally what's happening is the stages that we went through so far. Nursi started from manifestations of names, and then the second branch. But if my intention since the beginning is, because who is messenger? Practically, messenger is the person who comes up with Sharia, with the religion as well. What is religion? Religion is how belief, iman, manifests itself in our day-to-day life. So, which means Creator is now, metaphorically speaking, putting his finger into your day-to-day life. And my ego doesn't want this. So this is why religion is something that is distasteful for human ego. So if I don't want religion, what would I do? I would like to stay away from messenger. This doesn't mean that I deny God. Like, look at United States Constitution. This is a country believing in God, but founding fathers didn't like messenger. They didn't like prophets. They didn't like miracles. So likewise, if I don't want to get under Sharia, what would I do? I would like to eliminate messenger. This would be my first target. How would I do that? I will go and look. It's very easy to some narrations which are hard to accept anyways. It just doesn't make sense. I can simply deny them. Once I deny them, the prophet becomes useless. At best, I would call him a postman who brought the message. He did his job. He is gone. And I am by myself with the message. That's it. And the way, how am I going to interpret the message? The way I wish. I don't need a teacher to teach me how to interpret the message. This becomes the alternate way of going. But Nursi is not following this path. He is saying that this is, since the beginning, such mindset is already determined to discard the messenger. And just carves the way so much so that eventually he denies the narrations and everything. He gets saved from religion and the obligations and everything. And then he's just believing in God, because denying God is impossible. So, and it's going to be torturous. But at the same time, accepting God but no religion, perfect. So to cure this problem, he started from the very core, said manifestations of names, inevitable, then talked about truth. Then he said messenger has to exist as the perfect mirror. Then he said in the second branch, prophetic mission as being conscious that I am in need of being guided. I cannot figure out the meaning of this existence by myself. Once these are all established, then we are now in the third branch at the position of, okay, so whatever it takes, I would like to benefit from this messenger. So whatever is remnants of his message, I will try to make most out of it. Because now he educated my perception to the point that whatever is left, I will try to make most out of it. Such as nowadays we are doing for whatever is left from those old civilizations, whatever wall writings, whatever is left, people are trying to make sense of it rather than just trying to erase it, which is not exactly the case for the messenger. I mean, the resources are much more than what was left from Egyptians or Mayans, whatever. But look at the effort that we are putting into trying to understand what the Egyptians was like. But since we are interested in understanding their lifestyles, we are putting a lot of research effort and everything to understand their hieroglyphs. So now that we established that I am in need of understanding what the messenger was like, what was he saying, then comes this third branch. Sorry, it took too long. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, thank you. That was very helpful, at least on my end. So I think what I understand is, as we approach the third branch, we've already established, at least for myself, I should have established questions about my existence that I cannot find the answers to by myself within the universe. And as you said, I may scratch the surface of something, but I'm still in need of guidance. So then as I approach scripture and hadiths, or even this concept of, having a teacher to teach me, I need to feel the need to receive this sort of guidance as well. If I think that my own approach to whatever it is that I'm interacting with is sufficient, then that, or even sufficient or otherwise, that will shape my interaction with it. So I felt like Brother Yusuf was touching upon the very fundamental base of the approach. Like, why should I approach it this particular way? And in my approach to anything, I need to be able to question why and how I'm approaching. Why do I need to approach it, and how should I approach it if there's a need for it? Otherwise, if there's no need, then it becomes, in your example with the philosophy, like something external to me. If I don't internalize it, just, you know, something I do for the sake of something else, but not necessarily something that necessarily resonates or has anything to do with my particular needs of my existence. So at this point, I'm just going to pause for a moment to see if there's anyone else who'd like to share anything on their mind. There's a comment by Shema. Shema, would you like to go ahead and read your comment if you're available? Okay, no problem. We would have loved to hear Erva as well, but inshallah next time. Okay, so Shema says, a practical question. It makes sense that we are in need of receiving guidance from someone who receives messages from the creator of my needs. So here and now, what sort of messages do they provide me to live in a life that my existence reaches to the sufficient answers? So here and now, what sort of messages do they provide me? So what sort of messages does the receiving guidance from someone who receives messages from my creator of my needs provide me to live in a life that my existence reaches to the sufficient answers? Since they lived so many years ago, I don't see them and don't interact with them. However, there should be something that I can use right now. So what I understand from what you're saying is, it's one thing for it to make sense that I am in need of guidance in order to understand this guidance from one employed by the one who sends the guidance to address my needs. But it's another thing in understanding how I can utilize this guidance from this person who has been employed by the creator of my needs so that I can benefit from it, so I can interact with it here and now. And please feel free to correct me if my understanding was incorrect. I'm going to pause here again if anyone would like to try to share their understanding with Sister Shema, regarding Sister Shema's question. Please, thank you, Brother Yusuf. Much appreciated. Go ahead.
So, the question might have multiple aspects. I don't know which aspect Sister Shema was alluding to. But one point that comes to my mind is, so one aspect of that question is, they had their own problems back then. I have my problems right now. So it's not going to be a one-to-one correspondence there. So how much can I benefit from narrations of those old days for my today's problems? I guess this might be one aspect of the question that she's asking. But to me, the issue is more like when reading narrations, trying to, when evaluating messenger, never evaluating him without the revelation, never separating the two. So this person, messenger, was the first addressee of this revelation. He understood it the way that it should be understood, and he lived a life accordingly. So in his own circumstances, when I learn about his behavior or his sayings or what people thought about his actions, whatever, which are simply the narrations, I should take into account how is this an interpretation of which of the Quranic verses or which of the Quranic concepts is being interpreted with this. Then extract a pattern from there and bring it to my own life. So rather than copy pasting something in the at the surface value, but rather trying to learn a pattern that he's going through, because he exemplified a way of understanding. Like, for example, a professor in the classroom solves a math problem, and while solving that math problem, he uses some example. It might be like there are two faucets filling up a swimming pool. One of them is 10 liters per minute, the other one is 15 liters per minute. How long does it take to fill up the pool? Something like this. So the main point is to teach students how to solve, how to form equations and solve equation systems. But it's not, the main point is not how many faucets are there or what is the amount of volume of water that's flowing through them. But the concept is being explained on an example. Likewise, Messenger lived a life as an example, as a case study of how to make sense of revelation in his own setup. And so while reading narrations with Quran, I am going to go through the same and then apply the same pattern to my own circumstances. I guess this would be one aspect of it. But of course, aside from that, there's another aspect of that question, which is I am in need of live examples today as well. It shouldn't be like 14 centuries ago, this best example was put in there, and then the human examples are cut from there. There's no more. It's not like this. There must exist human examples today available for me as well, from whom I'm going to benefit as the people at that time benefited from the messenger too, which I think somebody else can elaborate more on that.
Thank you, Brother Yusuf. Yeah, I think when we say, the best utilization of the message, one needs to question in which way is the messenger the best messenger, or in which way, or what makes this utilization of the message the best? Is it the way, first recognizing that the messenger himself is also an addressee of the message, so he too interprets it, and that it's being filtered through a particular lens. And so when I approach it, it's not that I am to mimic his actions or the outward reflection of, I need to question the outward reflection of those, whatever it is that he's interpreting and how that manifests, but rather in his, how is he interpreting it, I think, seems to be the crux of the issue here. In which way, or how am I supposed to approach it so that I can best utilize this message just as the messenger has, although he may have lived 1400 years ago. So it's not so much so particularly the physical manifestation of one's understanding of the message, but rather how, when interacting with the scripture, what type of approach is the messenger using that is allowing him to best benefit from the message, and in what way can I also do the same so that I can best benefit from the message given my conditions here and now. So that would be my takeaway from Brother Yusuf's comments. Okay, so Shema likes the question, how can we approach these messages right now so that we can benefit from them. So inshallah, I think in reading this text, we will further delve into what type of approach should I also take so that I can benefit for myself here and now, inshallah. Are there any other questions or comments at this point? If not, maybe I think we can start reading from the beginning again and see where it goes. So I'll read the third branch again, the first paragraph. Since the hadiths that speak of the signs of the end of time, the events at the end of time, and the merits and rewards of certain actions have not been well understood, some scholars who rely on their reason have pronounced some of them to be either weak or false, while some of the scholars whose belief was weak but whose egotism was strong have gone as far as denying them. For now, we shall not attempt any detailed discussion, but shall only explain 12 principles. So some things that attract my attention here is that because of it seems that the author is saying that certain scholars who have relied on their reason, and whether it's only their reason, that's another case, but who have relied on their reason, have come to say that certain hadiths, especially ones that speak of the signs of the end of time, the merits and rewards of certain actions, and the events at the end of time, have pronounced these hadiths to be weak or false. So my first question is there some sort of relationship in like approaching these hadiths from like or why is the author here particularly mentioning these scholars to have relied on their reason and then come to some conclusion that these hadiths are weak or false? And does this play a part in these hadith not being understood well? That would be my first question here. Oh, there's a comment, I think. Let's see. Muhammad Said says, actually, Muhammad Said, would you like to read your comment so that we can hear your voice as well?
Assalamu alaikum. I am in a place that I am not really available to talk actually, and my connection is not that good too. Sorry.
No problem. I will read your comment. Oh, wait. I see a hand. Okay, so I'm going to read Muhammad Said's comment, and then Suhail Dar, please feel free to unmute yourself. Muhammad Said says, in terms of human needs, the messengers of God should be the ones who entertain their neediness or helplessness as their reality to reach the highest possible reality. So as far as my human needs are concerned, when I look at the messengers of God, they themselves need to have entertained or should have entertained their neediness as their reality to reach, using their neediness to reach the highest possible reality. I think that's the common point between me and ones who lived thousands of years ago. So basically what I understand Muhammad Said to be saying is that as I approach these texts or these prophets or try to understand what makes them the best, the teacher or the best example of something, I need to be able to connect or have some sort of point of reference in understanding how they approach the scripture or how they approach revelation. And in order to do so, the common point or the point of reference between me and my teacher then becomes this human need for, or first and foremost, this human neediness, this need for, or this helplessness, this impotence, or that I find myself in. And then from there, using that as a starting point to understand how they're interacting with the scripture to address those needs. But at this point, I'm going to let Suhail speak, inshallah.
So I just wanted to say why I think he says that, because specifically in the example he's using, the end of time, the events at the end of time, and the merits and rewards of certain actions have not been well understood. What he's trying to point out is that, in one sense, let's say with regards to the end of time, the point is not the signs, but is that one should take heed of the fact that there will be the destruction of the universe, or the ultimate destruction of the universe. Not that it's not already happening, but the final breath or moment of the universe's existence. It's inevitable. It's obvious. And here are the signs that show it's imminent, so pay attention and take stock or heed of what you're doing in your life. The question is, what part of that are you reasoning? Are you reasoning the signs? The signs are not something you reason per se. Those are things that are demonstrable. Those are things you witness, are obvious to you. What you are trying to reason is the destruction of the universe, that it's inevitable, that it will happen, the ultimate destruction of the universe. So if you rely on reason to reason out empirical matters, which are moments, events, of course you're going to deny them, or you'll find them to be weak or false, because you are trying to take the context of your situation and trying to reason out something that's not within the context of your situation. Signs are historical. They concern time. Whereas the end of time it's necessary. It's obvious. So that to me is in one respect why, using sort of reason to reason out signs makes no sense. It doesn't even make sense to begin with. And if you even go to these furthest, I mean, you can say they're weak or false. So in a sense, you don't say that there's no destruction of the universe and that there aren't maybe there are some signs, but it's not these, maybe, who knows. But if you really take it to its ends, if you really reason out to the end, you'll say you deny them, because in a sense what you're saying is, this is kind of what Yusuf was alluding to. You were saying, I know about the end of time, essentially. Well, how do you know anything? You don't know anything, except that it must be revealed to you. You must be informed of it, and informed through the messenger. Like, you need the messenger, as you pointed out. It's a fundamental necessity. Because as he says, whose egotism was strong. When you say, I know, I can reason out signs, first of all, it's contradictory, but you are saying, in your position, you are the equivalent of a messenger. You are the equivalent of a prophet. But who are you? What you say is no better than what anyone else says. But you can say it, but it doesn't have any validity. And the same thing applies to the merits and rewards of certain actions. The issue is, do you think your reasoning is either faultless, or are you denying what those rewards and merits are? Because you can't say, if you can't reason it out, you can't say that they're false just because they don't concern something that's obvious to you. Like, you can't, like, you have to be informed of them in a way, and then only then can you confirm it. But so that's what I took. I think, just if you had to boil it down, it pertains to the fact that you think you know better than one that must be appointed on behalf of the creator of the universe, the messenger of God, the prophet, to inform you and guide you and teach you. That's really what it fundamentally comes down to.
Thank you. That was very helpful for me. Is there anyone here who wants to? Okay, please go ahead. Other moderator.
Thank you. So, I'm trying to find some part of the text that I'm trying to understand, like these emphasis of people, denial of prophethood and so on and so forth. Is it really the main matter of this text or not? So anyway, like in short, what I think this text is not about critics of people who deny prophethood, his legacy, or even the hadith. He says, yes, there are some people who denied them, but they made a mistake. Let's not make the same mistake. Let's find out the right way to approach them. So I guess here the emphasis is on the right way to approach them, rather than why others are denied them or whether they are stupid or not. But what is the right way to approach them? Because I guess here the author is speaking to people who are willing to approach them in the right way. So up to this point, he said, there must be a way, let's call it the way of, or path of prophethood, which would take you to perfection in a most direct way. So you will, with the words of second branch, you will look at the sun directly, without any mirror. Okay, now I'm willing to do that. And the first source of information, when I ask myself, or when I ask, let's say, my friend, who is a very educated one, I say, okay, I want to follow the path of prophethood. So what do you advise me? He says, oh yeah, there are all these books of hadith, right? So start from there, he says. And I look at these books and I see some of them, some of these narrations, they don't, at least at the first read, do not agree with my worldview, my reasoning, my understanding of life. One hadith says, for instance, the author says, certain merits and rewards of certain actions. So one hadith says, if you, recite this 100 times, even if you have, the sins, which are as many as the, the surface of the earth? Or, the surface of the earth, or foams in sea, like on the surface of the sea, which is many, right? Even if you have that many sins, reciting X 100 times will wash them out. Or if you, today in Juma Friday prayer, Hatib was saying, he was talking about this epidemic virus, coronavirus, like everyone else, people there also scared, rightfully. And he was saying that if you recite this at the beginning of the day, it will protect you from any sudden evil. So there are such hadith, and he was relying on hadith. And when you hear such hadith, you say, come on, I will recite something 100 times and it will wash away all my sins. I killed some people, or I stole some, whatever. It doesn't resonate with the teachings of today, right? The teachings that you get from university, the schools, from your family, especially from your family. Because with family, with your mother, with your father, it's always, it's a matter of revenge. It's the matter of, that they never forget, right? And they always bring it on your face again and again, right? You did this to me, you will see it. There is no forgiveness. Yeah. or between your, the sisters, between your siblings. There's never forgiveness. Even if you, ask forgiveness 100 times to your sister, older sister, or to your wife, right? Make it more real. You make something bad, and you ask forgiveness, apologize 100 times. She does not forgive you. Right? It doesn't work that way, right? So you read such a hadith and you say, is this the one which will take me to perfection? Like I'm trying to follow the path of prophethood, and the books that you gave me says recite this 100 times and you will be saved. Or when end of time will approach, as it approaches, there will be such a creature, such a person, whatever. They all sound very mythological, like as myths, right? Saruman from the Middle Earth in the context of Islam, right? When it comes to Mahdi, Sufyan, all these creatures of persona. So you say, oh no, these books cannot take me the perfection. They wouldn't work with me. Why? Because I'm an intellectual person. I have my experiences in my life. I tried it with my wife. She didn't forgive me. So it doesn't work that way. But author says, don't give up there. Like, don't read them in a mistaken way. Maybe there's something wrong with the way you read them. Or maybe there's something wrong with the way you approach them. He says, let's see if they can really benefit from them. And then he comes with his principles. So to me, this is the crux of the text. The crux of the text is for someone who's willing to benefit from path of prophethood, how it works. Because again, at the surface level, when you first read them, they seem, they're not for you. They're for laymen who need some stories to rely on, but not for you as an educated person. So this is how I see the text.
Thank you. If Aishana, you're there, you hear that? I think it's time to prove Birkanabi wrong and forgive me. But I think, as I was listening, I was also thinking about, my expectations as well. So when I interact with a particular text, what is it that I'm expecting from it? So if it says, all your sins will be forgiven or whatever the case is, how do I understand that? So how do I shape my expectations based on this understanding? And in what way am I even utilizing a prophetic approach in approaching the text itself? What does that mean? So I think as far as I was listening to Birkanabe, my own expectations and understanding my relationship with the text and where I see myself in relation to it, how do I take it as just stories, or what is the guidance there for me, not tainting my relationship with it just because of a particular initial understanding or being aware of how I understand it. But I'm gonna just pause again here and see if anyone has any comments they'd like to share in person or online participants. If not, you can still raise your hand at any time. Maybe we can move on to the first principle and read that. Okay. The first principle. This is a matter which we have explained in the question and answer at the end of the 20th word. Its summary is this. Religion is an examination, a test, which distinguishes elevated spirits from base ones. It therefore speaks of matters that everyone shall see with their eyes in the future in such a way that they remain neither altogether unknown nor self-evident, so that everyone would be compelled to confirm them. It's saying it therefore speaks of matters that everyone shall see with their eyes in the future in such a way that they will remain neither altogether unknown, so that everyone will be able to see it in such a way that they'll be able to confirm it, nor self-evident, so that everyone should be compelled to confirm them. They open the door to the reason, but do not take the will from the hand. What is this they that they're referring to here? They opened the
I guess narrations.
The narrations open the door to the reason, but do not take the will from the hand. So I still have my ability to interpret it as I wish, but they guide me to something. Because if a sign of the last day appeared completely self-evidently, and everyone was compelled to affirm it, then a disposition like coal would remain equal to one like diamonds. The mystery of man's accountability and the results of examination would go for nothing. It is because of this that there have been much dispute over many matters like that of Mahdi and Şükran.
Oh, just correction, maybe they is referring to these matters, like the signs of the last day. Because then it says, because if a sign of the last day appeared completely self-evidently. So I guess it's talking about like these signs and matters that are referred in the hadith. They open the door to reason, but do not take the will from the hand, meaning like we don't see these signs as clear as the stars.
Yeah.
So in the end of the 20 word, he was using an example. He was saying that like there is no God but him is not written on the sky. Because, if it was there won't be a place for the free will. Everyone has to confirm it, even though they don't, want to believe or not. So I guess that's he's talking about something similar.
Yusuf says they refers to religion in general. So it's saying religion in general, open the door to reason, but do not take the will from the hand. I think before I let Sohail speak, I think in anything, hold on, what was I going to say? All right, I'm going to go ahead, Sohail Dar.
To me, this first principle is just an extension of his initial paragraph, but they, I think, refers to matters that everyone shall see with their eyes in the future in such a way that they remain neither altogether unknown nor self-evident, so that everyone will be compelled to confirm them. In other words, as he says in the initial paragraph, they open the door to reason. So what these do, in other words, the very fact that, as Birkan was mentioning, the truth isn't obvious as in obviously self-evident. And I don't mean self-evident as in man can't know it, but it's not, as he says, written on the sky. It's not materially self-evident. Like I can't point to belief to something out there. There's nothing out there I can point to. There's no such thing that exists like that. So what it does is that by doing so, by, for example, the destruction of the universe and the resurrection not being materially self-evident, it allows one to make a conclusion about the necessity of the destruction of the universe and the resurrection. It's inevitable. It's obvious from the perspective, it's self-evident or mubin from the perspective of one's reason, but it's not obvious from the perspective of, I guess, dhahir, or like the apparent reality. So by allowing one to reason, everybody has a choice now. Everybody can make a choice about whether they want to confirm or deny, or somewhere in the middle, but there's a choice to be made, and everybody has that choice to make. Otherwise, if it were written on the skies, if it were self-evident that the resurrection must take, not must, but is going to take place, there's no need for reason. It's redundant. It's totally useless. And there's no choice, because the choice is already being made for you. You are not making any choice to confirm, really, at the end of the day. As he says, the mystery of man's accountability and results of examination would go for nothing. Totally pointless universe in existence in one's life. Meaningless. Like, otherwise, if you take away man's choice, the entirety of existence would be pointless. Not just man's life, but the entire universe's meaningful nature has no purpose whatsoever. It might as well be destroyed right then and there. And as he says, because of this, there's been much dispute over matters like that of the Mahdi and the Sufyan. Because those matters are not self-evident, materially self-evident. Again, this refers to the necessity of messengership and being informed and guided.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Brother.
Thank you. So this is also related to what Suhail said. So I guess when author says, like, they open door to reason but do not take the free will from the hand. So he says, like, when you read an hadith, which talks about some signs, end of the time. So then it sounds like they're talking about some physical signs, like there will be such a creature with that long legs, that big trunk, the body. There are such narrations. Like extraordinary creatures are mentioned. Also extraordinary events are mentioned. And extraordinary persons are mentioned. Like there will be Mahdi, even Christ will come, there will be fight, and so on and so forth. So when you read them literally, and if you think they will be just, I have a book in front of me, so there will be a person who called Christ in front of me. If that was the case, he says, that wouldn't be coherent with the rest of the religion, with the rest of the teachings. Because everything else always gives freedom for you to choose. But if really, like, the person Christ comes here, it's obvious that, all believers will be just following him. There won't be any place for personal choices and so on. If we see such a creature, we know that it's, extremely extraordinary. So there won't be, just like, there's no God but him is written on the sky. So he says, do not expect such clear creatures or events or people physically appearing in front of you. But rather, read these narrations as speaking to not to your eyes, but to your mind. They will tell you something that you can reason about, that you can understand, make sense, possibly about the end of time, like how it looks like from a metaphorical narration. But do not expect such creatures appearing in front of you. Otherwise, there won't be a place for will. Like a superpowered man coming and telling who is believer and who is not believer, and then chopping the heads. These kind of narrations we hear. So if it is case in physical form, he says, there wouldn't be space for free will. So do not expect such a thing. So yes, he says, you will see something with your eyes. He says, matters that everyone shall see with their eyes in future in such a way that they remain neither altogether unknown nor self-evident. So yes, you will see something with your eyes, you will experience something, but to make connection between what you experience and what is narrated, to make connection, you have to freely try to understand it, make sense of it. Otherwise, it's not self-evident just because it says such a creature. Do not expect that such a creature appearing in front of you. But rather you will see, for instance, an attitude of people taking over the entire world. I don't know, they following stupid music groups, music bands, right? And it's everywhere. There's no escape from it. And you will see, oh yes, this creature has all these long legs reaching everywhere. All these ideology, huge trunk, like its shadow casting everywhere on the world. So you will make a connection between what you experience and the narration. And this way, there will be a place for your free will, there will be a place for your own interpretations, your belief, and your conclusions. That's how I understand this first principle.
Thank you. I just wanted to share one thing on my mind based on your comment and also Suhail's last comment. Insofar as I'm concerned, the meaningfulness of something, then the implications of what we're talking about is that the meaningfulness of something is then based on the existence of the fact that I can I can interpret it as it looks to my reality or as it doesn't look to my reality. I'm still formulating the thought, so it's not completely solidified in my mind. But I guess what I'm saying is that the necessity of free will, or free will is required in order to make something meaningful for me. So my emphasis is on two things. One is I'm speaking from my perspective, right? I'm not talking about the meaningfulness of the existence of something in the scope of existence in and of itself, but rather from my perspective as far as I'm concerned with my own existence and the existence of other things. And number two, somehow that meaningfulness is highlighted or comes about in my ability to reject something or to confirm it. So if something were very self-evident, if the stars said La ilaha illallah or something, then that would be meaningless for me, because then I wouldn't, for one thing, it would be self-evident. It wouldn't be a conclusion of any sort. It's just what is there. And I can't confirm I can't confirm it because it's already there. It's just evident. So there's something in confirmation of something that makes it meaningful for me. And this thought is not complete yet, but it's more actually a question, but I'll just throw it out there. Please go ahead, Sweat.
I was just going to say briefly that wanting to not have it be known, because when something becomes so apparent, it's human nature, I guess, to not exercise choice. Like you don't, there's no motivation to do something. Like, for example, like if you were shown the answers to a test beforehand, you really wouldn't study. I mean, there's no like, what's incentive? Like, what's the purpose of doing anything then? So that's kind of what I wanted to add. And the second thing is, you know, it's interesting because these sort of signs don't, other than maybe the last day, they don't in and of themselves really make you believe or not. I mean, if you think about the prophetic period, you can show people every miracle you want to. In and of itself doesn't mean anything. Like, it doesn't tell you anything in and of it in itself about what things mean. So you can look at something and say, "Oh, that's interesting," but have no trust that what the messenger is saying is true or must be true. These are two mutually exclusive things. So the man's reason has to accept what's before him. There's no other way. So that's really the nature of belief. Just the way the universe is constructed. It's inescapable that man must make a choice. And even if he were presented something so obvious, like, oh, this quote unquote miracle, no man can actually do that. It doesn't actually solve anything. It doesn't address anything. Because they thought that just witnessing that alone is sufficient, but it's not for one's human faculties, senses.
Thank you for your comment. I think I just saw a hand up. Please go ahead.
Overall, in this first principle, the sentence in italics is attracting my attention. Religion is an examination, a test, which distinguishes elevated spirits from base ones. So, as if the author is entering the topic with description of human. So human is as if human consists of precious mines or treasure, which needs to be digged and extracted. Or like the gold ore mine, you need to burn it in fire to extract the gold, the pure gold. Otherwise, it is just mixed with a lot of soil and everything. So, as if is describing human is given existence in such a state. And the reason that I'm saying about this is he's talking about distinguishing elevated spirits from base ones. But this shouldn't be understood as by birth there are some spirits which are like coal. There are some other spirits by birth which are like diamond. So such an understanding would contradict with the idea of free will and justice anyways. But in practice, what I do see is I am given different qualities, different, if you like, positive aspects. My wife are given different, Brother Birkan are given different, maybe less, but different. I mean, all these sort of things are out there, and we are bound to find or extract those. And the author is saying that religion is for that. Religion is to help you extract those mines or find these pure gold or diamonds from there. So religion's point is not to tell you the correct answers and take you to the next stage, like those before you take an exam, some insider comes and tells you here are the right answers, just write them in, when you get into the exam and you will get the highest grade, and we will then take you to the best position in the government. It doesn't work like this, but rather the purpose in this existence is to get into that training so that you find these valuable minds within that are embedded in you or put in you, being manifested in you. Why is it like this? I think the question is more like, no, is this like this rather than why? Because this is a description, this description of what is being manifested out there. So why question in here becomes a bit obsolete. Then since this is thus, then the author says definitely the religion has to use a tongue which is not going to be neither self-evident nor totally obscure, but it needs to be somewhere in between, so that whoever wants to improve will dig, get the message, and move forward. If it wouldn't be like this, then it will contradict this purpose of human existence. If it was either self-evident or it doesn't, it's totally obscured, then it would just contradict the human purpose in this existence.
Thank you, Brother Yusuf. One thing that I'm thinking about right now, after listening to you, as well as the examination or test that it refers to here, religion is an examination. The elevation of the spirits from one, or the distinguishment of the spirits, those that are elevated or base, it's not as a result of the examination itself, but rather what the author here refers to as the examination, including within itself. So it's not so much that, it's a test and I have to see, what the correct or wrong answer is, but in my ability to choose, this ability, this free will that's that I'm able to utilize, is then the means through which then this distinguishment or distinguishing of the spirits, or the meaningfulness that that the universe becomes meaningful for me. I guess, okay, I'm just going to hold off on that thought. Are there any other questions or comments in person, or how'd you do that? Okay, all right, so there's a comment.
I have a comment about the signs and how they're not self-evident. Like, for example, the time of Moses, right? He parted the waves. Are we claiming that's not really self-evident, that we can use some sort of rationality to explain away, oh, it's the moon or the sun, it parted the waves, it's not really Moses? I feel like if I witnessed that, or for the people who did witness that, what could they have said? How could they have denied, right, the self-evidentness of that miracle? Where did it come from? That's what I have a difficulty understanding. Of course, after that, the children of Israel, right, some of them did end up disbelieving despite seeing that miracle. But I don't know, what could be the cause of that. Of course, they probably have some doubts in their own faith, or about what they witnessed, what it meant. Do you have any? Can someone clarify my dilemma if I explained it clear enough?
I'm going to first address this question, inshallah, and then we can go to the comments. Brother Yusuf, is that a new hand or an existing hand? If it's a new hand, please go ahead.
It's a new hand. So if we go with the example of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to address Atik's question, so he came up with so clear miracles to Meccans, but they always found a way to deny him. which means it was never self-evident. There was always an option to deny. Either they said, well, this is just magic, or he's just putting a veil in front of the people's eyes, or his magic is so strong that it's just affecting even the sky. So it's always, there was some sort of a reasoning, some open door left for people if they would like to choose not to accept. An open door is left for them. Likewise, it must have been the case for the people of Moses as well, that people say that, yeah, this must be because of either moon or something. Because religion, I mean, this is like the definition, religion must be that it's going to open up the door, but it's not going to compel or take away the human free will. So it might be very stupid to accept such a thing. Let's say you are observing that the moon is being split, but still you are saying that, oh, Muhammad's magic is so strong that it's even affecting the sky. It doesn't make any sense, but if somebody wants to go with such an explanation, still such an explanation was available for them, and some people choose to take it. So I guess this is what's being meant in here, as far as I understand.
And I guess the answer to your question is somehow given in Quran. When Moses goes to Pharaoh, shows his miracles, the response was, oh, he's obviously a good magician. So I guess, yes, like at least the way I see, like I don't see any reason not to, let's say, not to accept that it is possible that someone, what is the word? Like on duty on behalf of someone who's
Representative or
representative, maybe atanmak. What would you say?
I don't even know the term.
Okay.
Anointed. Anointed.
Appointed, yes. Someone appointed by the creator of the universe would come and would do something extraordinary. I don't have any reason not to believe that this is possible. It is possible, yes. But at the same time, at least the way Quran explains all these examples, it is, it's like, at least to me, it seems like they happen in the context of this time, of that time. So, for instance, Moses, yes, he splits the sea, but there's no talk of, I don't know, spaceships or something. It's still in the context of that time. It's extraordinary, it's a miracle in the, like in its all sense.
Yeah.
But still, some of the people says, no, this is just a magic, just like other magicians do. So they don't even see it as something, really extraordinary. Although it was extraordinary, they say, no, we have other magicians, they can also do similar things. So anyway, I guess to have a space for free will, we don't have to deny that such miracles, such extraordinary things can happen, could have been happened. There's no point of denying them, as he would say in the, I guess, second principle. But at the same time, I guess there's no much benefit of talking about them as well. Meaning, like, nobody would, I don't know, like, I've seen people saying things like, oh yeah, our prophet or that prophet made such a miracle, I don't understand how people still disbelieve that. Nobody's seen them, right? like, whom are you trying to fool? Like, you haven't seen them as well. Like, they can't be an evidence for you either. So anyway, like, I guess that's the reason the author is saying that they open a door for reason. Even if they are extraordinary, there will be still a chance for you to think about them and make sense of them. It doesn't mean that, they don't occur, they don't happen, or they didn't happen. It doesn't mean that. But I guess what it means is that your connection with them will be through your understanding, through your reasoning, through your, making choices. That's the way you will make connection with them. And this is the way you make connection with the split of the sea, right? You believe it, yes, because it is narrated in Quran, which is a trustworthy source for you. That's the number one reason you believe it. At least this is for me, like personally, the number one reason I believe Moses split the sea, because the news coming from a trustworthy source. At least for me, it's trustworthy. Some have confirmed its trustworthiness. So this is the number one reason. But at the same time, this message brings something for me that I can confirm, that I can experience today in my life as well. So if you allow me to speak a few more minutes.
I allow you, but you have to ask the other moderator as well.
Okay. So actually that was, that is the part I was planning to highlight in the text. It is interesting, author says, for the events that everyone will see with their eyes, he says. But he's talking about events of end of time.
Yeah.
So, like for Atik, for instance, if you are lucky, and end of time is not that near, that close, that there's a chance that you will not see them. You will wake up after, all these signs, after resurrection, but you will not see them with your eyes, right? There are many generations past.
Yeah.
They haven't seen these matters or signs. If we take them as, literally, that signs that will happen just before the end of the universe, you should take them as such. There are many generations haven't seen them. You will probably, we're not sure still, see them. There's a chance at least. But the author says everyone will see them with their eyes.
Yeah.
Why he says that? Because I think he says when you read such narrations, do not get lost within a historical context. Again, it doesn't mean whatever is narrated there, word by word, will not happen in future. It doesn't mean that. It may. And I don't have any reason to deny that it won't happen.
Right.
But at the same time, author says, but you can read the same narration applicable to your time, to your life. Because you know what, Birkan? Let me tell you something very surprising. Your life will end. Right? There is an end of your time. There is end of your life. I know you don't think about it much, but it will come. And here are some signs that your end is approaching. Search for your Mahdi, search for your Sufyan. So I guess the author says there is also such a possible reading of such narrations that you can personally benefit.
Thank you. Yeah, I was also, I don't think there's much left for me to add in particular, but I was also thinking about, with the parting of the sea and Moses, the irony in chasing Moses through the sea, which is the miracle itself. So you're kind of rejecting the miracle as you're not just witnessing, but experiencing it in a way.
I'm sorry for interruption. That's really a good point, actually. Like some people were running with Moses, right? Benefiting from the miracle. Some people were chasing them despite the miracle. So there is always open space for free will. Sorry for interruption.
No, not at all. Thank you. So I guess like in a way, I'm running through the miracle one way or another right now. But it's a matter of, I guess, understanding or questioning what is at stake here for me in accepting this to be a miracle or rejecting it. If I don't see anything, or if I have presupposed a certain position, or if I have another agenda of something, of some sort, that pushes me towards rejecting that is what I'm already, experiencing, then I will reject it, even if it's in a way evident or clear in front of me. But there must be some sort of way for me to utilize my free will so that this distinguishing of the spirits can be made. But do you have anything? Okay, are there any other comments regarding this topic? Okay, then we'll move on to the comment by Shema. She says, based on tonight's reading and discussion, in a nutshell perhaps, Prophet doesn't contradict with his inner voice. He doesn't contradict his inner voice. The philosopher may choose to contradict with his inner voice. Prophet does not take credit for his findings. Philosopher claims ownership of his findings. Yeah, so I guess this reminds me of the other comment from earlier about in saying, if I know, these so-and-so are the signs of the end of time, or the event of the end of time, or the merits and rewards, or whatever it is, in saying that it is I that knows, that I'm saying that I know, then that deadens that, like, it deadens that knowing for me. It for one thing, there's nothing at stake. There's nothing that's, guiding me to or adding to my understanding of my existence for me. And it's in the knowing, in the claim, in the ownership over the knowing, then I choose to run through the miracle while rejecting it, in a way, with our metaphor here. Whereas the prophetic way of going about it then is acknowledging, not taking credit, right? So noticing the miracle and noticing, acknowledging that that it must have a source, but at the same time that there's guidance in it for me, that I'm being guided, as opposed to saying that, I benefit myself, or I'm guiding myself, or I know this to be true. But I'm going to take a pause here to see if anyone has any thoughts. Please go ahead, Brother Yusuf.
Just one small addition. A philosopher will say that I, or we as humans, will find truth. Prophets and students of Prophet would say that my Creator will guide me, and my Creator and his messenger and students of his messenger can teach me how to find truth. So in the first one, the ego of the philosopher, which is, if you extrapolate it, becomes the ego of humanity, claims that we are the reference point of truth. But in the path of prophethood, it says, no, the truth and how to reach the truth must be from my Creator. And I am aware of my neediness and impotence in this regard. Therefore, I am submitting as a student of this path. this becomes the path of prophethood. The prophet himself is also submitting to the path of prophethood. He himself is the first student in this regard.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or thoughts? Lingering questions? Something interesting on your mind? Oh, whoops, there's a hand here. Go ahead.
So this is a little tangential to the main topic. It's more about maybe style, uslub. I don't know how else to translate. The way we approach the thing and so on. Like when I hear people, including myself, now when you hear from others, it becomes more evident, but then it's easy to remember that you use the same words and so on. So here author is talking about the will, free will, is talking about the events, signs, that the things that people will see with eyes and so on. And I guess this is really important because such a style, he's talking about concrete things. Like you will have some experience in your life and you need to interpret it in the right way. You will see some signs in your life and you will need to make sense of them. But when we talk about things like truth, so they don't resonate with the reality much. Because in my reality, there is no such thing as truth. Like I'm not talking about a truth, the truth. I'm not talking about this distinction. Like a truth as an object, there's no such thing in my life. There is, for instance, trueness of an, let's say, a fact or a claim. Something is either right or wrong. Something is either true or not true. So when we say like reaching truth, again, it doesn't matter, a truth, the truth, but reaching truth, it sounds very like a authoritarian. Even if you say a truth, doesn't matter. Because you're talking about an something abstract which doesn't even know what it means. Like a truthness of what? Like are you talking about how to tie your shoes? Or are you talking about how, I don't know, have a happy relationship with your family? Or are you talking about whether there's a creator or not? So truth of what, right? So that's again like you can talk about the truth when there is some options and when there is something concrete in front of you. For instance, I see like 4 books in front of me. 4 is the true number and 5 is the wrong number. So you can reach the true number of books, but you cannot reach truth. Again, like by itself, it doesn't mean anything. So the same way, like following prophethood or path of prophethood to reach the truth. It's like, I don't know, it's, at least to me now, when I listen to myself, it sounds like a person from a clan, or not clan, what they call? Cult. Cult, talking about something that you can never touch, you can never, experience, that you can never, that you just follow because it's a fancy word. So anyway, just as a a side note, that when we say that the path of prophethood will take you the truth, I say like, the truth of what? Because what I need is a happy life, for instance, happy family life. What I need is security after my death. What I need is let's say a happy or conscious relationship with my Creator who takes care of me all the time. What I need is a security in the sense that He will take care of me tomorrow as well. So these kind of things I need. I don't need truth. It doesn't mean anything to me. Because the only thing come to my mind when people say truth is whether there are two pillows there or two pillows, or two or three pillows, whatever. I'm not that much concerned about that. Whether a proof of God is truthful proof or not, again, I'm not that much concerned of them. What I need, whether am I going to have an eternally happy life or not. So if you can guide me in that sense, if you can show me some proofs, or if you can show me the way to experience it, I will follow the path of prophethood. But to reach the truth, I wouldn't do anything, to be honest. Like I spent my 28 years reading books to know about the true way of calculating things, or true way of, making things, manufacturing things. And I'm not that much happy with the truth. So I don't care about truth like as an abstract concept. That's the only thing.
Thank you. So I think my summary of that is truth for the sake of truth is not truthful to me. Because if I just go for something for the sake of itself, it's always external. It doesn't matter what, it doesn't address anything.
That's it, like talking about truth without an event in question, without an argument in question, without a question in question, it doesn't mean anything. Like follow prophet to reach truth. Truth of what? Like who will win the World Cup? This is a truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Brother Yusuf, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
I think I am understanding Brother Birkan's point regarding very abstract and also philosophical as a philosophical term when truth is used. So in this regard, I can understand the point that he is making. Aside from that, if we define truth properly, I think there's also a point to use the word as well, because the Creator himself describing himself as al-haq, the truth as well. So there must be a point in there too. So for example, if your father just gives you a smack or whatever the word is, so if it's for no reason, you will become definitely too upset. But if he gives you a explanation of why he did this, then maybe you will appreciate it, because he was trying to save you from some, I don't know, future problems that you're going to encounter, or it was some sort of an education for you. So the apparent purpose was not clear to you, or the apparent reason for that smack was something totally unrelated which made you upset, but you wanted the real reason behind it, which is you wanted truth of why did you hit me. And once it's revealed to you, then you are satisfied and you accepted it. So likewise, what is this existence? Because if you look at on the surface, as Brother Birkan is saying, we are just dying, and it doesn't mean anything. If this is the meaning of the existence, if this is truth of this existence, it truly sucks. But tell me, come up with something satisfactory to me about this existence that will satiate me, that will satisfy me. This is come up with a satisfactory truth of this existence, the meaning, the purpose of this existence, which is going to satiate me. So I guess in this regard, truth is what satiates human, and truth in the sense that truth is divine names. So in this regard, I think it is so much crucial for human life. But if I take truth as disconnected from the divine and divine names and use it as a word on earth, like as a wordly, or using Quranic terminology as a term of ard, like on earth, then I would agree with Brother Birkan saying that it's just, what are you doing? Are you philosophizing? So I just wanted to highlight this point to make sure I'm not misunderstanding Brother Birkan.
So one example, like when Creator talks about himself, he talks about names like Rahman, Rahim. These are the things that we interact, right, in this reality. He says, if you follow these instances of Rahman, you will find me. If you follow these instances of wisdom, you will find me. So the vocabulary of Quran is so vast, and the names are so vast. And the Creator wants us to interact with these names, specific names. So for instance, if Creator was talking in Quran, he would say, with the example of smacking, for instance, what is the reason of smacking, he would say, right? Such a narration. Not truth of smacking. Or when I'm exploring the universe, right, I would say, what is the purpose of this creation? Not what is the truth of the creation. Yet beyond all these, also calls himself as al-haq, the truth. Because all these instances, all these different vocabularies and so on and so forth, at the end converges to somewhere and so on. But as a human, when I live my life, I do not interact with al-haq, or like the truth at first level, right? I interact with beauty, the beautiful one. So my Creator talks about himself as the beautiful one, the most beautiful one. I interact with mercy, the merciful one, and so on and so forth. So that's the reason at the beginning, I said that this is a matter of maybe style, attitude, but I guess this is important. Like when we start replacing all these colorful words, colorful names, that people can make sense, the people that can understand easily, with things that we have to reach as a conclusion with, or that we have to reach at the end, then things becomes, even if we are not aiming for this, things becomes, with Yusuf's words, like philosophical. So there is no escape from that. So we cannot use the truth for everything we mean. Like for purpose, I will use it. For satisfaction, I will use it. For meaning, I will use it. So it shouldn't be. That's what I mean.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess like we can, maybe in my mind at least, I was differentiating. So the philosophical truth then becomes truth for the sake of truth itself. And then the other sort of truth is truth that looks to meaningfulness for me, as far as I'm concerned. Any other comments? Any other comments or questions from online participants? I see people who have not yet raised their hand. It would be nice to have a more diverse variety of participants participating. not for the sake of participating, but for the sake of utilizing their participation for meaningfulness.
Oh.
Also, we should mention, we do not condone violence against children. But Asim, I saw your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. No, I was enjoying listening to all you guys. So the phrase I was thinking about was the open the door to the reason. And I was thinking, how, as you guys were saying about, even with the reason, what are we really reasoning about? And mostly if we're reasoning about the actions or the material side or, the descriptions, then I think that would be a problem, because we have to take into account what is the prophet actually telling us. He's not a wise man or somebody who is just there, to tell us stories, but he's there, everything that he says has a meaning to it. So if we reason about the meaning, then we may be on the right track. But if we reason without, just on the physical and material descriptions, then we can really get out of the benefiting from the whatever these matters that are being discussed. Yeah, just to add that. And my voice, thank you.
Thank you. It was great to hear that comment and your voice as well. And other the participants should follow your example. Do we have any hands here? One thing on my mind was I was thinking about, right after Asim's comment, the reason that the author refers to in this first principle versus the paragraph before it. And I guess like in the first paragraph we read today, when it says the scholars who rely on their reason have pronounced some of the hadith to be to be weak or false, then I think the key word there is the reliance on one's own reasoning. So I am reasoning, and I am reasoning such and such and such. Whereas in the first principle, then it says they open the door to the reason, but do not take the will from the hand. So reason being a tool and utilizing this tool, but I think recognizing also recognizing the nature of reason as a tool, and that I am being given it, and yeah. So I'll take another pause here to see if anyone has any hands, any questions, comments. Abdurrahman, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you for everyone for their comments. I appreciate especially how Brother Birkan likes to voice his stance. I really enjoy it. So just as he voices his stance and just his ideas, I also want to voice mine, to also just follow his way. I disagree, or let me not say I disagree, but my view of the word truth is I really enjoy seeing God as the truth or seeking truth. For me, it's something that speaks to me. I really, because in this world, like this idea of like what's real and what's fake, it's really cumbersome. Like you trust things, you think truth is, let's say, people tell you truth is Islam, but is that real? Is that true? Or truth is in following the Prophet, or truth is in meditation, and truth is in these things. Like these are the things that are true for you, but then you realize they're fake. They could be fake. Or people say you have the power to do this and that, and people say this is what will solve your problems. Like just they're pointing at different things, and is it true? Is it fake? Who knows? Like so this idea of truth, like this independent, eternal, absolute truth, the one that you can finally just seek, the one that could just solve all your problems, all of these whisperings. Let's say if you have like whisperings and doubts and just constant like just searching for like just something that's not gonna like just wither away, or something that's just you can grasp and actually hold on to, that's gonna save you. So I like the word, the truth, and I just wanted to also voice my opinion and perspective as he does, and I really enjoy it when he does. So thank you so much.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.